Well, good morning and welcome to a breezy Sioux Falls, South Dakota here. We're at beautiful country club of Sioux Falls, and my name is Ryan Jansa. Come to you live with our very first episode of Free Tip Fridays. So I'm a mortgage loan officer here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And for some of you might say, well, why am I taking golf advice from a mortgage loan officer? Well, if you're a fan of the Severance series, my innie is a mortgage loan officer and my outie is a former golf professional. So I've been playing golf since I was about 3 years old. I've had a lot of success. Most recently played on the PGA Tour Champions, had about 4 starts there. And so the goal of this series is to give a little bit of a tip every Friday from the beginner. Our goal is to help you from the very beginner, somebody that's never touched a club, to somebody that plays at a very advanced level. And for those that play at an advanced level say, well, I don't want to go through those early steps. Well, everybody can learn from the basics. And so that's our hope. So we're going to walk you all the way from the grip, which is where we're going to start today. We're going to work you all the way from the grip, kind of set up, and then all the way through some more advanced skills, whether it be short game skills or stuff out of the sand or course management or whatever. But yeah, we're going to have a lot of really great things for you. And today we're going to start with the grip. And every player from beginner to advanced can learn something from the grip, because that's really the most important part of kind of what we deal with here. Is as the one part of the club that our hands and our body connect to. And so I always start with whether or not, like I said, if I'm giving a lesson to somebody who's been playing for a long time or somebody that just picked it up, I'm going to always start and look at their grip. Because if you don't have a good grip, it causes a lot of problems throughout the whole swing in general. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed, I think that's probably where we start. Obviously, if you're right-handed and you're just starting, the first thing that goes on, your left hand is going to be on the top of the club here. So if you're left-handed, if I'm standing on the other side of the ball, then your right hand is going to be on the top of the club. So that's where we start. And so people say, well, what are the most important parts of it? So I like to hold the club up when I'm giving some advice on the grip. I like to hold the club up so people can understand. So one of the things I always talk about, and what you'll see a lot of players do that have issues, is they'll let the butt end of the club is up in their hands. Well, we want the whole club in our hand. And then they say, okay, well, when you look at your hand, we want the club to run, is it going to run in your palm or in your fingers? So if you can kind of see how that looks there, is it going to run in your palm or in your fingers? Well, good grips happen with your club more in your fingers as opposed to running up your palm. Just not a lot of strength there. It's just difficult for you to be able to manipulate the golf club like you want with the club this way. Now, when we talk about grips, when we're talking about putting, it's completely the opposite. When we're talking about putting, we want that club to run right on your palm as opposed to being in your fingers. So first thing I like to do is, if you imagine just these two, if I only had 2 fingers on the club, I can pretty much control it just with the 2 fingers on there. So now if it was in my palm, I can't. I don't have any strength there. So that's kind of where we start. We're going to start kind of getting those 2 fingers on there, and then the hand's just going to wrap around. And when we're talking about how we're going to put our hands on there, really, when you think about it, we're going to bend over, get comfortable, and really about where our hands hang, that's about where we're going to grip the club. So again, club's going to go in the fingers, and then the hand kind of wraps over the top. So this is the big debate. So what we'll look at here now is strong versus weak grip. So when you hear that, say, oh, you need to strengthen your grip. Well, a weak grip for a right-handed player is if the hand is more underneath the club here. So if the hand is underneath like this, so you can see my thumb is running straight down. When I look down, I can't see any knuckles on my hand. Now, if I go it way the other way and I get the hand on top of the club like this, this would be considered a very, very strong grip. So which is best, strong or weak? Well, we'd prefer to have it a little bit more strong than weak. Weak grips can cause a lot of trouble. I always equate it to, like an alligator. If you grabbed an alligator by the mouth, the alligator can't open it. But you don't want to have your hand in the way when it clamps down on you. So if you imagine with a weak grip and this club is coming into impact, there's no strength there. There's just no strength in it. So what we want to feel like is that we're going to be hitting the ball with the back of this hand. So to do that, we get the club a little bit more strong. You'll hear a lot of teachers and people talk about when you look down these two knuckles. So when I'm over the ball and I look down, I can see those two knuckles, okay? And that's really the best way to kind of give you an idea of whether or not your grip is strong enough. Okay, so now, again, for a right-handed player, you're gonna talk about how does the right hand go on. Well, once we get our left hand on here, and again, we wanna make sure that there's a little bit of the club, butt end of the club, past the back of our hand here. We don't wanna have the club like this, because then again, we lose control of the club head. So we're gonna have it about right here. So now that we've got our left hand on, where does our right hand go on? Well, imagine if it's flat against the club here, like this. It's almost like a little puzzle. This little knuckle here sits right in that gap in my hand. And then really the fingers just are gonna wrap on comfortably this way. And again, now this, what I'll see a lot of times with, especially with kind of beginners or amateurs or people that have played baseball, is they want to take this right hand and they want to get it way underneath like this. And that's a very, very strong grip, okay? And what we don't want is we really don't want this right hand to have a lot of the control. So now if we go the other way, and we get, again, it's just the opposite of our left hand. If this right hand gets on top, now we have a very, very weak grip. Now we have the really hard time turning the club face over, having any kind of control of the club face. So this right hand is gonna be very, very neutral. So a little strong with our left, a little bit more neutral with our right. So our right hand is just gonna kind of go on there comfortably. So now the next question is, well, how hard should I hold it? Well, that's a good question. So if you squeeze it to death, everything is tense. So once you put tension in your hands, the tension goes up your arms, into your shoulders, into your neck, and you look like this. This is not comfortable for anybody to be in that position for a long time. If we're gonna be out here playing golf, we wanna be comfortable. So what we like to feel like is that there's just a little bit of play in that club. If I had somebody here that was on the other side of me and I said, hey, give it a tug, there would be just a little bit of, I want to hold on to it. I don't want to throw my club out onto the range, obviously, but I don't want to be squeezing it so hard that it doesn't allow the club to do what it wants naturally. We really want to see the hands that are on there to be, to have the ability to let the club swing. Because this is obviously our point of contact between us and the club head. So we also want to be able to feel what's going on with it. Well, if you squeeze it too hard, everything is tight and tense. So you'll see, really rigid swings from people that are just starting. Well, what you want to feel is you want to feel very loose and comfortable. Just like anything, whatever you're doing, you want to feel loose and comfortable. Whether you're sitting at your office or sitting at your desk, you just want to feel loose and comfortable. So that's what we're going to try to do. Left hand's going to go on. We're going to give it a little bit of room over the back. We're going to run the club more in the fingers. A little stronger with our left hand. Again, now if you're left-handed, so I'll give you an example. So if you're left-handed, it's going to be the same way with your right hand. So right hand's going to go on, a little bit of room over the top. I'm going to see a couple knuckles. And then when I come on now with my left hand is going to be pretty neutral. Again, we don't want to have that left hand over the top or underneath. So there's all sorts of different kinds of grips too. So I'll show you just on the back of the club. This is probably the easiest way. So when I grew up, when you first start and you have small hands like young kids, they'll do what we call a 10-finger grip. It's like a baseball grip. You'll hear kind of a couple different names. People that play golf know it as like a Dave Barr grip. There were some very famous guys that played with a 10-finger grip. Now this grip is typically used if you have smaller hands, or maybe if you're just getting started, this is fine. So then you'll see another grip, which is called an interlock. So if this is my little trigger finger here, now my right hand, these just go together. So, pointer finger in between my pinky and my other finger, and then it ends up on the club this way. This allows our hands to stay pretty close together and also gives us a nice little point of contact. It takes a little bit of that pressure off too, allows you to not have so much club head tension. So if I grip it with both hands, I have the ability to grab it really, really hard. Now, once I do the interlock, I think Nicklaus was an interlock. There's lots and lots and lots of professional golfers that play with the interlock. When I was young, I grew up, and the gentleman that taught me the overlap, which is essentially the same thing. Instead of sticking my finger out here, I'm just going to let it sit on the club comfortably, and then it kind of fits in there like the little knuckle just kind of fits in between there. And I've played that way my whole life. So some people prefer it in, overlap or interlock, and the 10-finger you don't see very often. But again, once you're getting started, you've put your hands on there comfortably. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see this. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see separation of the hands. We want the hands together because we want them to kind of communicate. And the other thing that does is when our hands are together, if you imagine just like if I'm sitting here like this and my hands are together, it allows us, once we start to actually move the golf club, it allows us to start turning our body like we need. If our hands are all separated, like if I was, for those of you that are Happy Gilmore fans, I suppose, he was more of a kind of a hockey style deal, but not a good decision long term for sure. Maybe only in the movies. But so anyway, I'm an interlock grip. I think this is probably the most comfortable for me. And again, the club is just going to basically just, if we took it right from here and just set it down and got comfortable, that's exactly where we want it. We don't want it, way ahead like this or way back here like this. We just want to imagine if we were just going to bend over comfortably and let our arms hang, that's really where that club's going to go. So again, there's a million different varieties of grips, but the keys, if we go back over it, is going to be, get comfortable, kind of where your arms hang. We want to make sure that for a right-handed player that our left hand is a little stronger or a little bit more on top of the golf club. And we also want to make sure that we focus on having that club run in our fingers, not in our palm. So fingers, not our palm. A little bit of the club past our hand, beyond our hand. So we don't want the club in our hand like this. We'd rather have it a little bit past. That gives us total control of the club head. Next big thing is grip pressure. We don't want to squeeze that thing to death because tension creates problems. Ben Hogan said that, tension was the #1 killer in distance or length in golf because, it's like a bull whip. Bull whips, you don't have to move it very fast to make it generate a huge amount of speed. And that's why, it's because it's relaxed. That's where you allow that club to do what you want. So in the golf swing, in the golf grip specifically, we want light grip pressure. We'd rather have our we'll call it our top hand, a little bit more strong. And then our right hand is just going to fit on the club comfortably. So pretty much almost just flat against the back like this. So if I was imagining swinging, you can kind of see how it just sits flat against the back. And then our hands are going to just wrap on there real comfortably. So nice, soft, comfortable grip. Get comfortable, stay loose. The most important part, whether we're talking about grip or anything, is to have fun, enjoy yourself. Golf's an incredibly hard game. You're going to learn a little bit each time you go out. And if you can do that, you're going to be a success long term. So at the very beginning, I told you, I'm a mortgage loan officer at First Dakota National Bank here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I've been very, very fortunate to be there. Just an incredibly family-owned bank, And I could not be more thrilled. Very happy to let them take a little time out of my morning here to talk a little bit about golf. But yeah, if you are in the market looking for some advice or information regarding mortgages, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll make sure that we treat you just like we do the rest of our customers, with a helping hand. Thanks.